Can you point to any other place in the code or any other time in history where that phrase, together regulate importation, has been used to confer tariff-imposing authority?
And I'm wondering what exactly, which powers you're speaking of there, because tariffs, one would naturally think, is are the power to impose taxes, the power to regulate foreign commerce. These are not things that are thought of as Article 2 powers. They are quintessential Article 1 powers.
That regulate at least includes qualitative methods, quantitative methods, quotas, licenses. They can see that regulate. There's a lot in regulate that's not spelled out there.
I think it went very well. I think the Solicitor General made a very powerful case for the need for the President to have the IEEPA powers, and I believe that the other side, in a way, fell flat on their face. That'll be up to SCOTUS.
The Supreme Court is weighing one of the most consequential economic cases of the Trump presidency, and the stakes are enormous. At issue is whether U.S. President Donald Trump had the legal authority to impose sweeping global tariffs under a 1977 Emergency Powers Law. The administration relied on the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, which allows presidents to act during national emergencies. But the law does not mention tariffs, and several justices questioned whether regulating imports could include creating new taxes. Conservative justices, including Chief Justice John Roberts, pressed the administration on whether this move overstepped constitutional limits. They noted that the Constitution assigns the power to tax imports directly to Congress, not the White House.
The exercise of the power is to impose tariffs, right? And the statute doesn't use the word tariffs.
But it uses the word regulate importation.
Well, it's two-facing. Yes, of course, tariffs in dealings with foreign powers, but the vehicle is imposition of taxes on Americans, and that has always been the core power of Congress. So to have the president's foreign affairs power trump that basic power for Congress seems to me to kind of at least neutralize between the two powers, the executive power and the legislative power.
Only Justices Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas appeared to lean toward Trump's interpretation of the law.
Tariffs are taxes. They take dollars from Americans' pockets and deposit them in the U.S. Treasury. Our founders gave that taxing power to Congress alone. It's simply implausible that in enacting IEEPA, Congress handed the president the power to overhaul the entire tariff system and the American economy in the process, allowing him to set and reset tariffs on any and every product from any and every country at any and all times. And as Justices Gorsuch and Barrett just said, this is a one-way ratchet. We will never get this power back if the government wins this case. What president wouldn't veto legislation to rein this power in and pull out the tariff power? IEEPA is a sanction statute. It's not a tax statute where Congress gave away the store. Congress knows exactly how to delegate its tariff powers every time for 238 years. It's done so explicitly, always with real limits. But never once did a president try and seek IEEPA as the basis to rewrite the entire tariff code.
I found it interesting to hear you make the non-delegation argument, Mr. Katyal. I wonder if you ever thought that your legacy as a constitutional advocate would be the man who revived the non-delegation argument.
Heck yes, Justice Alito. I think Justice Gorsuch nailed it on the head.
Trade experts reportedly say that if the justices' skepticism is any indication, the IEEPA tariffs are now in legal jeopardy. But even if Trump loses the case, analysts say the administration will simply turn to other trade laws that clearly authorize tariffs. Companies and importers hope for clarity, but economists warn that uncertainty around trade policy may continue for years. Some CEOs say it's nearly impossible to plan investments when tariff rules could change after the court's decision. More than $100 billion in tariffs collected under IEEPA could be subject to refunds if the court rules against the administration. Justice Amy Coney Barrett noted that issuing refunds could create a complete mess for government agencies and the courts.
Unwinding those agreements, he warns, would expose us to ruthless trade retaliation by far more aggressive countries and drive America from strength to failure with ruinous economic and national security consequences. The power to impose tariffs is a core application of the power to regulate foreign commerce, which is what the phrase regulate importation in IEEPA naturally evokes.
Can you point to any other place in the code or any other time in history where that phrase, together, regulate importation, has been used to confer tariff imposing authority?
Only a small number of companies would be reimbursed automatically. Others would need to file complex claims to get money back. Trade lawyers warn that if refunds are denied, thousands of new court challenges are almost certain to follow. Even a loss would only be a temporary setback, as the administration could use other laws to reimpose tariffs with different justification. Those laws include Section 232 for national security tariffs and Section 122, which allows temporary duties. The Federal Reserve says renewed uncertainty over tariffs could slow the economy, though interest rate cuts might offset the impact. The case also raises deep constitutional questions about how much power Congress can delegate to the president. Justices question whether upholding Trump's interpretation would allow presidents to impose tariffs of any size on any product at any time. A decision is not expected until 2026, meaning businesses, global markets, and consumers could face prolonged uncertainty. Trump warned that a Supreme Court ruling against his administration's broad global tariffs would be devastating for the country. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that he left the Supreme Court hearing on the legality of Trump's broad tariffs, feeling very confident about the administration's position.
I think it went very well. I think the Solicitor General made a very powerful case for the need for the president to have the IEEPA powers, and I believe that the other side, in a way, fell flat on their face. But that'll be up to SCOTUS.
What's the plan B if the Supreme Court ultimately rules against the president's powers?
We're not going to discuss it now.
Can you elaborate on what the president means when he says this case is literally a case of life and death, sir?
Well, it gives him the ultimate negotiating authority. And if you want to talk about life and death, let's talk about the fentanyl tariffs. That is life and death. Hundreds of thousands of Americans die every year, and the fentanyl tariffs brought the Chinese to the negotiating table in Busan, Korea, and we have taken them down by half. And for the first time, the Chinese have agreed to work with the U.S. on the precursor chemicals. So that is life and death. That we were at a tipping point in the economy with these trade deficits. That was a problem. And sometimes the best tariffs are the ones that never get enforced. That the president threatened 100% tariffs after the Chinese on October 8th threatened to put export controls on rare earth magnets from Chinese products that had 0.01%. Every camera, every iPhone here would have been subject to a Chinese control. Because he had the ability to threaten the 100% tariff, he was able to successfully execute on foreign policy.
The IRS direct file program will be canceled. What's the rationale, reason behind that?
I think that we have better alternatives. It wasn't used very much, and we think that the private sector can do a better job.
The economy was a major driver in getting folks to the polls yesterday. Has the administration done enough to address the daily costs of life and the cost of living?
Well, the first thing we had to do was to stop the incredible Biden inflation. And if you look, MIT just published a story or a study that said 44% of the inflation came from the huge budget deficit that the Biden administration ran up. We've actually brought the deficit down. So before we can address the affordability, we had to stop the arc up. And we are working every day. Gasoline prices are down, interest rates are down, and I believe we have a great economic story to tell. I am also the IRS commissioner, and what we are seeing is that working Americans, from the one big beautiful bill, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans, that Americans are going to be getting very substantial refunds in the first quarter. They'll change their withholding. They'll get the wage increases then. And you know, the other thing too, there's affordability on one side and there are wage increases on the other. And under President Trump, working Americans have already seen real wage increases before those 4 plans kick in.
The administration has done a pretty good job in making sure the U.S. dollar is stronger. Gold has recently dropped nearly 20% since its 10-year high. Is the Treasury confident with gold prices falling that this will result in a stronger U.S. dollar?
Yeah, we don't focus on the gold price. What we focus on in terms of the U.S. dollar is making sure that the underlying fundamentals are there, that will continue to keep the U.S. the reserve currency of the world. We believe that we have put that in place.
The president has acknowledged that his party is being at least partially blamed for the shutdown and that contributed to last night's election results. Is it time for him to convene congressional leaders here to try to reach a deal to end the shutdown?
No, what it is time is for 5 brave, moderate Democratic senators to come across the aisle, be heroes, and open up the government. That's all it takes. What are you negotiating on? What are you negotiating on?
They're asking for an ACA.
Yeah, and for the entire period, it's been open the government and we'll negotiate.